This video is about simplified test sequences. Some of the manufacturer's recommended functional checks can be very time consuming. Because of this, some of our customers use an AM or alternative equipment maintenance program with simplified test sequences. To help you set up your AM, we've provided simplified test sequences which typically include only calibration steps and functional alarm checks. It's the responsibility of each organization to determine if the full functional check is required or if a simplified AM is appropriate. Also, if you find that none of the standard test sequences meet your needs, we offer free assistance customizing test sequences to your preferences. This video demonstrates one of these simplified test sequences. Any of the sequences that end in the word simple are test sequences that are based on the manufacturer's recommended service procedure, but with steps removed. This screen tells us what calibration gas is needed for the sequence. And as always, we start by entering the asset ID and the user initials. The disclaimer tells us that it's a simplified functional check and tells us what user manual or service manual the sequence is based on. The disclaimer that we're agreeing to here says that it's our responsibility to make sure that this is the right test sequence for the device we're testing. You'll see here that this applies to actually 3 different modules. And the very first test is the sample flow rate. So we start by connecting the sample line between the water trap on the module and port A of the SmartTank. Then we press start. The SmartTank will measure the sample flow rate and compare it to pass-fail criteria. If the flow rate doesn't fall within the pass-fail criteria and we get a failing result, then when we hit next, it would walk us through the routine required to calibrate the sample flow rate. But in this case, because it passed, when we hit next, it'll just take us to the next test. So the next step is gas calibration. We start calibration on the monitor by touching monitor setup and service calibrations. And then we enter the username and password. Default is biomed, all lowercase, and then capital change, space, capital me. Next we touch gases and gas calibration. The monitor starts by zeroing the module, and then it will tell us to feed calibration gas. Once the monitor says feed calibration gas, we'll touch cal on the SmartTank. That causes the SmartTank to deliver calibration gas at a controlled flow that conserves the calibration gas. We wait until the monitor says adjust, which means it's done making the measurement, and we can turn off the calibration gas to conserve calibration gas. So now it's saying adjust. We adjust these values to read what the calibration gas mixture. So this is a 5% CO2 mixture, balance oxygen, which is 95% oxygen. And we touch accept. When the monitor says calibration okay, it means that it's accepted the calibration, and we can touch pass on the SmartTank. We exit out of this menu, brings us back to the main gas service menu. So this AMB or ambient value gives the ambient or barometric pressure as measured by the gas module, 680 millimeters mercury. The SmartTank's internal NIST traceable barometer measures the pressure as 677, almost 678. So they're reading very close. It's well within the pass criteria, so it's a passing result. Next, we'll test the sample gas out blockage alert. We can exit out of this menu. So do that by using our finger to block the exhaust port on the front of the module. And we watch over here for a message, sample gas out. See that happen pretty fast. And we can let that off and it'll return to normal. So that's a passing result. Next, we're going to simulate breath. When we touch sim on the SmartTank, we'll start simulating a CO2 waveform very similar to patient breathing. You can see a waveform here that looks a lot like a capnogram. We just verified that end-tidal and FiCO2 update give us values. So that's a passing result. Now that the SmartTank has stopped simulating breath, we should get a apnea message or alarm on the monitor. This is an important alert because obviously it tells the clinician that their patient has stopped breathing. So it's always an important one to test. There it is. So apnea is detected. So the overall result is pass. When we touch next, it'll generate a test report. We can scroll down through the report to see the results, and we're done.